Hey everybody, it's me, Zach, and welcome back to my channel. Hey everybody, it's me, Zach. Hi, hello, how are you doing? Today, we are back here to talk once again about TLC's critically acclaimed, someday soon to be nominated for an Emmy or some kind of award, but they have won some kind of reality TV award or something at some point. We're here to talk about TLC's 1,000-Pound Sisters, starring Amy and Tammy, and then the whole rest of the gang. Amanda, Misty, Chris, Brittany. Brittany is like coming into a little bit of a role. She's like actually having more than 3 words to say in a whole season. She has more words to say in this episode. We got a lot to talk about. I will say this is delayed once again. This recap review is delayed once again because I was traveling last week. I was in New York City. I did some vlogs about that, so I know every time that I've actually posted one of these recaps of the 1,000-Pound Sisters, people have been like, I'm so grateful it's not another Amber Lynn video, which I totally get, and also a lot of people do love my Amber Lynn Reid content, and I do try to give a little bit of everything. So if you miss the vlogs where I was in New York City, one of them I got the famous bagel from the famous bagel shop that Anna from Glitter and Lasers got, and then in the other one I documented my little journey to get this tattoo. I don't know how to angle it so you can see on camera, but this is a tattoo of my late dog, Judy and I got it from an artist there, and I documented that as well in a vlog. That got posted this weekend, and sometimes if I post non-Amber Lynn content on the weekends, people don't always necessarily see it, so I'll leave all the New York City vlogs linked down below in a pinned comment in case you want to go check those out. But otherwise, what we're really here today to do is to talk about the 1,000-Pound Sisters and to give you a recap and review of what happened in the last episode. And it's kind of also, at this point, a recap and review for me, because normally my process for doing these videos is I sit down, I watch the video, I type my little notes, and then I almost immediately turn on this camera, film it, go in, edit it, etc. And that's not how we did it this time, because I got to the airport to come back to Chicago a whole 2 hours early. And so I sat down in that airport, I opened up my laptop, I watched episode 3 and I took my notes, and then I promptly came home and did a whole bunch of other stuff that I had to do first. So this is also a recap for me because it's been a while since I actually watched the episode. It's been quite a few days. That was on Thursday and today's Monday. So hopefully I remember all the good juicy bits and details, but if not, I do have some notes over here to look at, which I do normally have anyways, but I might just be relying on them a little bit heavier today. So the first thing I want to note is that so many people on the last 1,000-Pound Sisters video let me know that Amy's pronunciation of the famous painter and artist Van Gogh was actually much closer to the actual pronunciation of the artist's name than what we as Americans say. And so thanks for letting me know. And I also just want to say, let's be real fucking serious here for a second, y'all. Because y'all know Amy didn't know that was the correct way to pronounce that artist's name. You know that's not, she had no idea what she was saying. So I appreciate the sentiment. I do. I understand why you're like, oh, she's actually close. She's close by mistake, by chance, by luck. It's not like she's a world famous art historian over here, y'all. This is literally the girly pop that whenever her kids were doing arts and crafts last season, she said that one of them was about to be the next Mozart, because she thought Mozart was an artist and not a musician and composer. Anyways, I do appreciate the banter in the comments, so thanks so much for letting me know. I thought it was really funny, and you know what? Amy might not be the smartest, but I'm not either, and I'm happy to take the big ol' L on that one. So this episode picks off where the last one left off and picks up where the last one left off. And if you recall, at the end of last week's episode, they were at Amanda's and shit hit the fan. The whole family was fighting and arguing and this, that, the other. And we see this scene start off with Amy just like walking down the road to nowhere, like seemingly who knows where the fuck she's going. And you see Tammy upset in the van, like frustrated with the situation. I will say Chris makes a kind of funny joke, I guess, about how Tammy wouldn't walk off like Amy did because, well, she just physically couldn't walk off like that. And then he says, you know, maybe if we want to motivate Tammy to work out a little harder, we just gotta piss her off more so she'll just walk off and storm off in the future.
We know she ain't gonna go take off walking like Amy. I mean, if she did, that would be the miracle of the day. Maybe that's how we get her motivated, just piss her off.
And then one thing I'm just really curious about all of this is just like the family dynamics amongst all of the siblings. Because Brittany is Chris's wife, in case you don't remember, but she full on like jokes about getting left behind by Chris and Misty after Tammy and Amy stormed out of the house.
Y'all left me there.
I thought you were following me.
I thought you was following me out. I didn't want to go outside in the cold.
And at first I was like, oh, this poor woman. Like, Brittany doesn't seem like the kind of girly pop to, like, advocate for herself or, like, leave situations like that. And that's not, like, a drag or shade or anything. She just seems to be more of, like, a person who's averse to conflict. So I kind of felt like she stuck around back there because, you know, like, she's not somebody who's trying to face conflict. And with that being said, I feel like that's actually, honestly, a lot of them. I feel like all of them try to avoid just like having actual conversations with each other because they, despite the amount of conflict they have, they like get to that place because everything just like boils over. Like, I feel like all of them are like, I'm not gonna talk about the problems I have with my siblings until like it really reaches just like the max level, because that's the thing about Chris and Misty is that they like continue to not really take sides in any of this, which is just like irritating and frustrating to me when there do seem to be some things that are like clear problems. Like, why are we afraid of Amanda in this situation? And why are we afraid to tell Amanda like what the problem is? So at some point, both Amy and Tammy calm down a bit and they're talking in the van, and Tammy's trying to explain to Amy that like she does actually understand where Amy was coming from because a competition could lead to her just like beating herself up more if she doesn't like succeed in the way that she wants to. And at one point, Amy even starts to cut Tammy off a little bit, and Tammy clarifies, like, listen, please don't do that because that's actually the only thing that Amanda did in this situation that set me off. Tammy was able to really articulate very clearly that like the problem all began with like Amanda just not listening to what Tammy had to say about the situation. She felt like people just talk over her, don't give her a chance to explain herself. And we know that that is true. Like, that is something that has always triggered her. Like, so many of the things that have happened to Tammy on this show have often started from somebody cutting her off, interrupting her not feeling heard, her not feeling listened to. But then you can also tell that Tammy's upset because, you know, Amanda just threw her out, both of Amanda's actual home and the home that Tammy is like living in. And Tammy is upset because none of her siblings like stepped in to say, hey, that's too much. That's too far. Like, let's calm down before we take things to that place. Nobody stopped Amanda. Nobody interrupted it. Nobody questioned it. Tammy mentions that she is just like done with her family at this point, but Amy's like, listen, Sister Sue, I can't afford to be done with the family. Like, I need people to drive me places.
I'm done with everybody in this family.
Well, I need people to drive. I need people to. My mental health cannot make everything a competition. If I focus on a competition, it's going to mess up my mental state.
Which I think is actually true for both Amy and Tammy. Like, they're both very reliant on their families for helping get them around and getting them places they need to be and things like that. But in general, it's very clear that Amy is like not in a good place mentally still from all of the stuff that's happened with her divorce. And she was also trying to communicate to her family that this like competition would not be good for her mental health. And I think she just was like frustrated that people weren't listening to her when she was trying to communicate that. And I did get really sad because at one point she was like, I'm not the stupid sister that they all think I am.
I don't know why they don't respect me. I'm not the stupid sister that they think I am. I've let them do that to me for years.
And that's kind of like a theme for her this episode. It seems like she really feels like she has to prove something to her siblings, which I think is interesting. But I guess when like they're such a large part of your life, like seeking their validation is probably important. But it is interesting that she feels that way, especially because they just like all joke around so much about each other being stupid. Like, honestly, I feel like they're constantly taking jabs at one another. But I do think that like they particularly do take a lot of jabs at Amy. But I also think Amy like makes jokes about herself too. And I think that that's like the nature of their family dynamic. She's just in a place right now where she's not feeling super confident about herself, that she's taking things a little bit more personally than maybe she used to when it comes to them joking around with her. And Tammy says something really harsh that I feel like, I don't know, you might regret saying that, girl. Like, you might regret that and feel like you can't take that back later.
She's done crossed too many lines and I'm over.
As far as I care, Amanda's dead to me. I don't have a sister named Amanda anymore.
And it's really sad to me that it's gotten to this level. It is really sad that Tammy said something so harsh, but it's also like all of this could have been resolved if y'all would have just sat down and talked to one another as siblings. If you would have just like tried to communicate what the issues and problems were regarding Tammy's housing and Amanda's kids and this, that, the other. And in general, I'm curious about how Tammy thinks that her life is gonna be so much better off without like family members around and things like that. Because, you know, she at one point talks about wanting to like leave the state of Kentucky. She wants to be that far away from her family. But also the reality is that despite Tammy being like way more independent than she used to be, she clearly very much still needs a lot of like support from her family. At a minimum, just like, again, she, like Amy, she also has to be drove around places. And she seems to like rely a lot on Amanda's kids right now for groceries and things like that. So it does seem like Tammy still needs some support. She probably can't fully just, you know, shove her family away, because otherwise I don't know who's gonna help her. But I guess I do understand her sentiment. And we do get to catch up with Amanda too after all of this, and she is still so fucking heated.
Everybody out here talking.
Nobody was talking.
Why don't you guys ever stand up for me? I'm upset with you too, Chris. She is hateful and mean to everyone.
But interestingly, now her anger is directed at her siblings, specifically Chris. Because apparently Amanda feels like they didn't stick up for her when Tammy was coming for her. And again, I actually honestly think that the siblings are far too neutral in this situation. If any of them would just like try to be a voice of reason with Amanda or Tammy, I think that things could actually get resolved. Like, it does seem to me like Chris can see what the issues are, but he's just unwilling to like say something about it. And I think if you genuinely care about both Tammy and Amanda, then they need to hear from you about what problems they're bringing to the table. If like the whole goal for Chris is some kind of unity in the family and things like that, then you need to be able to be honest about the dynamics that are going on in this group and address them. And for me, I don't know, maybe I'm just like way too direct of a person. But if these were people that I cared about, whether they're friends, family, whoever, whatever, if they're people I care about, I'm going to be direct in my delivery of like what I think is going on and what could fix the problem or the situation. And like, remember, Chris fully saw the broken window that was allegedly caused by Amanda's kids in the house that Tammy lives in. So it's like, Chris girl, you know what's going on here. You know what's going on. And you know, I did just get done talking about how Tammy's comment about Amanda was harsh, but Amanda also followed up with a very harsh comment about Tammy as well.
If she's on her deathbed, don't call me.
It was just kind of crazy hearing her say that, considering that Tammy was recently, like, on her deathbed. But in general, this is just a lot of hurt people hurting people, you know? Like, y'all are going through it, and instead of, like, coming together to work through, like, the pain and the emotions that you're dealing with, you're just refusing to talk to one another and hurting each other further. And I generally do want to say, like, I'm still very much on, like, team Amanda is wrong in this situation. So we move on from the day of the big fight, and Amy goes in to check on how Tammy is doing. And Tammy's still feeling really sad about the situation that happened with Amanda and Amanda kicking her out. And Amy starts to feel bad because she's like, listen, I know that fight started because of me not wanting to participate in this competition. And she, like, really appreciates that Tammy was trying to stick up for her. What I will say is funny is that there's clearly a lot of problems going on in this situation. Maybe potentially from both sides to different extents, but I did think it was funny that Tammy thinks that one of the problems is that Amanda is jealous that she's no longer the pretty sister.
I feel like she's kind of jealous. The spotlight's not on her. She's not the pretty sister no more.
Y'all in the comments, could y'all let me know who you think the pretty sister is? Could you just let me know which Slaton sister is the pretty one? I'm just curious. I don't know if I would say, I mean, I guess Tammy could be. Listen, I'm not usually attracted to women, so maybe I'm not the person to weigh in on this conversation. And we get a couple different times in this episode where they talk about Tammy's, like, long sordid history of housing, and maybe in some cases housing insecurity, where she's lived with other siblings in the past. And in particular, she talks about how she's lived with Amanda before and Amanda kicked her out. And this is kind of just, like, stirring up some of those feelings again. And I do vaguely, like, I know from Tammy's time prior to starting the show, she did go from place to place. I remember, I think for when I started watching her, maybe, she had, like, when she first came back to YouTube, post, like, her maybe dying and Amy starting the GoFundMe for her coffin. If you don't know that story, I'm probably not the one to tell it right now. But there was a time where, when I started watching her consistently, where she was living with Mama Slaton. I do remember that. But apparently she lived with Amanda at one point. Apparently she lived with Chris at one point. And Amanda kicked her out once upon a time. And I think that this is kind of like re-traumatizing Tammy around that. And also apparently Misty is going to catch some strays from Tammy.
And as I feel right now, Misty can go to hell too, because she's turned. Ever since I come back from rehab, she ain't been not texting me, not coming over, nothing.
Although I do kind of see why Tammy's frustrated with her siblings as well. Like, they seem to have been around a lot more often when Tammy needed a lot more help. And I think she's kind of missing some of that now because, like, they don't have to come over as often to help her. And she's missing, like, that connection with them. Like, she had a connection to them coming over and assisting her. And now she's like, well, was that the only reason you wanted to come over? Like, were you only coming over because I could potentially die? And now that I'm healthy, you don't give a shit about me? And I think that that makes sense. I can see where she's coming from for sure. But it does seem like the narrative is that Tammy is getting the fuck out of Amanda's second house. And Amy even offers Tammy a place to stay. But Tammy's like, listen, girl. She's like, I can't do that. I just got done living with your ass. I cannot do that. Which, like, I fully agree with her. In general, at this point in the episode, she really seems to be suggesting also that, like, hey, I don't want to live with any family members. Like, I don't want to have any kind of, like, housing connection to family. I want to be able to do this on my own. One of the big subplots of this episode was Amy cooking this god-awful white chocolate shrimp Alfredo. And the first part of this subplot is her going shopping for ingredients to cook it, and it's a fucking disaster. Like, first of all, what the fuck is white chocolate shrimp Alfredo? I don't know. I don't actually know a whole lot about cooking, despite having a lot of opinions on people cooking on the internet. But like, so maybe that's a cuisine somewhere. I don't know. Doesn't sound great to me. But also, like, Amy has no idea what she is shopping for in the grocery store. And that's despite her saying that cooking is a therapy release for her.
Cooking to me is like a therapy release.
But here's just like a montage of moments of her in the grocery store not having a fucking clue what is going on.
What I'm making is a white chocolate Alfredo. It's like regular Alfredo, just add chocolate chips. Just stuff that you put in a typical Alfredo, like onion powder, ranch powder, garlic powder. I would put a little bit of vanilla in it, a little bit of Creole seasoning, cut it. I don't know what edamame is. We'll find out.
Y'all, before I show you this next montage of this puck cream that she finds, look at how staged this is. I didn't even notice when I was watching the first go-around, but while I'm editing, look at how they put this can of puck cream in the middle of all these spices where it clearly doesn't belong, so she'd find it and have to talk about it. This shit is so staged, I'm kind of mad about it.
Cream? Really? Oh, it's puck cream. My head autocorrects that. I think it's a sweet condensed milk type deal. It looks Arabic or Indian or Tawan or something. Boneran. Was it here? Never used curry before, but I used a lot of lube in my life.
So after Amy's little grocery store extravaganza, we get to go see Misty and Chris go check in on Amanda post-surgery. Now, we get a quick clip, and I have to include it because we are a pissin', shittin', fartin', and burpin' channel, but we get a quick burp from Misty.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry I'm so annoying at that. I just have to include every gross bodily function that happens on this show. But honestly, the way they presented it is that they like started off talking about how they had to go check in on their little sister. And so in my mind, I automatically assumed they were going to check in on Tammy after this like large family blow up. But I definitely forgot that Amanda was supposed to have knee surgery. So they were going to check in on Amanda after her knee surgery. But I was just like, surely they're gonna go see how Miss Tammy is doing because she just got obliterated by Amanda for seemingly no reason. But I guess that's not what we're doing today. And it's crazy because Amanda acknowledges that she's not even entirely sure what she said that day.
I'll be honest, I really don't even remember everything I said that day. I was extremely doped up and I had surgery the next day.
And to me, that sounds like a good enough reason to be like, hey, I can't remember exactly what part I played in that story, and I know that 2 of my sisters left my home really fucking upset. Maybe I should reach out to them and apologize and try to get down to business. But that is not what Amanda does, just for the record. But it seems like that would be the time to do it after you're sitting there acknowledging that you don't even know potentially what you said that made your sister so upset. And Amanda refuses to pack all the blame for this, but then gets real irritated looking when Chris suggests that, you know, maybe Tammy is also not to blame for everything.
Well, I'm not gonna pack all the blame for this.
And I know that.
I'm not.
And she's not in all the blame either.
Like, how are you gonna be mad at Chris for, like, the smallest defense of Tammy that, honestly, in my opinion, isn't even far enough in terms of defending Tammy in this situation? Like, how could you be mad about that? Like, Chris really should have been letting you know about the window that your kids broke in Tammy's home. Like, he should have been doing a whole lot of that. But all he did was say that, hey, maybe there are things that you did that caused Tammy to be upset, and maybe neither of you are entirely to blame here. And then in a confessional, Amanda says once again that, like, she was wrong for kicking Tammy out.
Tammy done made me mad enough to where I was out for blood, and I said anything to hurt her feelings. Was I wrong? Absolutely. I shouldn't have did that.
And I'm just like, okay then, let's say that to Tammy. Let's share that message with Tammy. Why are you telling these producers and this camera, why don't you pick up the phone and call your sister and let her know that you shouldn't have done that? And like, on top of that, you admit that you were just trying to hurt her feelings by saying that? You were just trying to think of the thing at the time that would hurt Tammy's feelings the most? Like, that's really mean. Why not just pick up and apologize for that? Like, I appreciate the self-awareness, But, like, later on in this episode, Amanda doubles down and says, like, I refuse to apologize to Tammy for anything. And it's like, no, but you clearly admit that there were things that you did wrong. What's the harm in apologizing for those things? That's your ego, Amanda. That's your ego coming into play there. Like, if you really do feel bad about those things, then just say sorry to Tammy. And Amanda goes on this, like, long diatribe about how, like, she doesn't think it's fair that, you know, people always excuse Tammy's behavior when she was unhealthy and she was fat and she couldn't do a lot of stuff. And she's like, but I'm not gonna excuse her bad behavior now that she's skinny. Because first of all, like, I don't even think Tammy's behavior is that bad now that she's skinny. To me, it seems very clear that Tammy's worked on a lot of the things that were bad about her behavior in the past. But also, like, you can't even apologize for your bad behavior, Amanda, skinny or fat. So, like, I don't understand what you're expecting from Tammy here. And she's also like, Chris and Misty, do not intervene on my behalf. Do not tell Tammy I want an apology, because if Tammy's gonna apologize, she needs to do that on her own accord. Like, I don't want her to just come and apologize to me because y'all told her she should. Which just feels also very childish. And it's also like putting Chris and Misty in the middle of it all, if you're asking me. And now we get to the part where Amy actually cooks her white chocolate shrimp Alfredo disaster. And it is a disaster. She says that the recipe isn't healthy, but it has shrimp in it, and shrimp is protein, so that makes it good.
Even though this dish ain't really healthy, at least I got shrimp. Shrimp is protein. Shrimp is good for you. So I am focusing on my weight a little bit.
I'm so glad she's learned so much about health and nutrition after going through gastric bypass surgery. But honestly, it just looks awful every fucking time that they show it.
I'm gonna cook lunch. Hey girl, what are you doing?
Bitch, what are you cooking?
And at one point, Amy just starts listing off, like, the craziest of ingredients that she's adding to this recipe.
There's red onion, garlic. You know I'm big on the ranch powder. There's chamoy, slap your mama, everything bagel, adobo.
And listen, she had already lost me personally at white chocolate shrimp Alfredo, but the rest of the nonsense that she kept adding was just made it sound fucking inedible, to be honest with you. And she also talks about how her grandma's spirit comes through her and talks to her when she cooks and, like, cooks through her.
I can't explain it. It's like my grandma cooks through me and just grabs stuff and just adds it.
And I'm just like, girl, you gotta get a restraining order on this ghost. You gotta get a restraining order on your ghost grandma, because she's trying to kill you. She is trying to take you out, bestie. I don't know how else to tell you. So I don't know if I mentioned this, but Tammy is there while this cooking is happening, and Tammy is also just generally disgusted. She basically came over to hang out, and we find out that she has given Amanda her notice that she is moving out, and so Tammy has to figure out somewhere else to live in the next 30 days. And then we find out that the reason Amy is even making this monstrosity of a recipe is because she wants to give it to Amanda to, you know, like, make amends and apologize and, like, also take care of her sister. Her sister's recovering from surgery, so she's just trying to help out by bringing some food over so she doesn't have to worry about cooking. But honestly, it all makes a lot of sense now. Like, Amy is trying to get her revenge on Amanda. She said, I'm a cook for you, and it's gonna be fucking terrible. Which I do feel a little bit bad about, because again, an underlying, like, theme to this whole episode is just, like, Amy's desire to seek validation and approval from her siblings. And she is really emotional during this time, because she just, like, feels like a lot of her family makes fun of the way that she cooks and the ways that, like, she doesn't cook well, maybe. She says that they make fun of her for her cooking a lot, and she starts crying because of it.
But it would mean a lot for you to try. Like, y'all think I can't hold a candle to y'all.
I never said you.
No. Misty, Amanda, and Chris, they all say I can't cook. I can't do nothing.
And she's also crying because Tammy doesn't want to try it. And I don't know, not to pour some salt in the wounds, Miss Amy, but based on what I see, and listen, not a professional chef myself, so maybe I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, but I'm not sure you can cook, you can make food. You can, but also sometimes you just need some honest feedback in order to be better at what you do. Anyways, Tammy has the right mindset because Tammy's okay with Amy cooking for Amanda, even if she's not on good terms with Amanda.
If Amy wants to cook for Amanda, that's fine. I just hope it gives the bitch the runs.
And eventually Tammy does also try the concoction herself because, she's feeling sorry for Amy because Amy's crying. And she's like, what's the worst that could happen?
I figured, just do it. If you throw up, you throw up.
But yeah, Tammy ends up being pretty grossed out by it. You can tell on her face that it's not really hitting the way that it should be hitting. She can't really hide how she's feeling about it on her face. The next scene we get is Chris and Brittany decorating their house on November 1st for Christmas, which is just so funny because that means if they really do that on November 1st every year, they're getting ready to do that again. They're getting ready to do that this week. But I guess Chris and Brittany are buying a house next door to them that they want to fix up and rent out to people. I guess their dream in life is to be a landlord, so they're buying a house next to them so that they can rent it out. And Chris, during this conversation, basically suggests that Tammy could possibly live there, even if it's just temporary. And Brittany wants to know why somebody else can't do this. Why can't Tammy just go live with Amy? But we already know that living with Amy is out of the question for Miss Tammy. But it's also interesting because the whole time they're having this conversation, I am assuming that Chris has already talked about this as an option with Tammy, and I don't think he actually has at this point. And I think Brittany brings up a lot of valid things to be concerned about. She's worried about Tammy eventually hating them the way that she currently hates Amanda, which I think is really valid. And I really don't understand why Tammy would even consider this as an option when in this very episode, she said, don't go into business with your family. Do not become a tenant of your family members. Don't do it. It's not worth it. So I don't know why she would even consider this as an option, but apparently it is on the table because we'll find out later she goes to look at the house and everything. And I mentioned that they've talked a little bit about Tammy's housing insecurity and stuff like that. And I do think that the episode does a really funny way of editing in her quick housing history for the show.
She didn't like things that was going on in my house. She moves out and goes on to live with Amanda. They got into it. I guess Tammy and Mom got into a fight. Then she moved out to Dixon. And we all know how that ended.
But overall, Chris says, we will not let Tammy be homeless. That's not what Brittany and I do. We're here to help all of our siblings, all of our family. We would never put somebody in a position where they didn't have a home. But then, like I said, at this point, at least in the episode, we find out that Tammy hasn't even been informed that this is an option yet. So, I don't know. It seems like maybe Chris is putting the cart before the horse a little bit, but she does come around to at least considering it as an option as we find out later in the episode. Then we get to see Amy taking that Alfredo concoction over to Amanda, and Amanda has the appropriate response to the food.
When she passed that dish off to me, I was like, what the is this?
But I do have to ask, why could we not get this woman a goddamn fork? Why is she sitting there picking at this food with her fingers? And apparently Amanda likes it, but I do sort of still hope she gets the runs. Really, truly. Tammy needs her lick back. But because Amanda shares that she likes it, Amy starts crying over the approval from Amanda.
You don't know how much I'm sorry. This is a good tear. It's good tears. Because y'all know how y'all always say, I can't cook. I can't burn
say
water.
that.
And I do have to say, I think Amanda must be coming off of the meds, feeling some less pain in her knee and things like that, because she seems so much more reasonable and kind in her response to Amy crying. Like, she does a really great job of reassuring Amy, telling her that, you know, she doesn't have to impress anybody, that her siblings are going to love her regardless. Like, it's not like a competition to impress each and every one of her siblings. And they also have, like, the most reasonable conversation about the gym and the competition that Amanda wanted to do. Like, Amy was allowed to really share how it made her feel and talk about where the emotions about the competition were coming from. Like, Amy's general concerns seem to be that, like, more time focused on the gym means she's also going to be taking time away from the kids, her house, and taking care of her mental health. And I do think Amanda makes some good points of, like, hey, also, you need to start looking at this as a way to invest in all of those things. Like, if you're really going to be able to take care of your house, take care of your kids, take care of your own mental health, then you also need to be taking care of your physical health. And this is like the sane, enjoyable Amanda that I remember, like the level-headed Amanda that has been there in all the other seasons. And like, maybe it's the case that Amanda gets tired of having to be the fucking level-headed one, but like, I miss this. It's refreshing to hear one of these people talk about things like the ways that your physical health relates to your ability to care for your children, relates to your ability to take care of your own mental health. Like, it was just, like, such a breath of fresh air, and I was like, where was this fucking Amanda last week? I don't get it. And then they talk about getting a frappe to celebrate working out together, like, after the first workout they do together. And Amy clarifies that, like, maybe getting a frappe wouldn't be good for her. But it's not because it would negate their workout, though, like you might be thinking.
Gonna give me a soda because frappes will make me.
Oh, well, there's that. Well, you know, when you do that, though, I mean, it might be pushing out the weight. I mean,
Yeah,
they say you can get it out or sweat it out.
And they also even hash out how Amy feels like she can never get a word in edgewise with her siblings. And so, like, Amanda cutting her off really upset her and frustrated her. And Amanda apologized for it. It sounds like I'm annoyed that Amanda apologized for it, but I'm like, I think that comes from, like, Amanda, if you can apologize for that to Amy, like, you can also apologize to Tammy for doing the exact same thing to Tammy. But Amanda clarifies she will not be apologizing to Tammy, and she doesn't care if Tammy never talks to her again. So that's where we're at with that. And then the very last scene we see is Tammy going over to the house that Chris says he's gonna fix up. And there should be some heavy emphasis on, like, Chris needs to fix this place up, because it does seem kind of run down. Like, it looks like it needs a lot of work before somebody could actually live in there. And they have to do this within 30 days. The inside of the house has a lawnmower and a creepy doll sitting in a rocking chair for whatever reason. And, like, the doll seems perfect for what Spooky Ookie talking to the spirits Tammy would need. Like, it looks like exactly her vibe. But the rest of it looks like a dump, to be honest. The rest of the inside looks like it needs a shit ton of work. And a large part of this conversation also seems to be about, like, Chris being worried that, you know, Tammy might make Brittany upset, or, like, having Tammy in this space might make Brittany upset. But she's, like, offering suggestions about things that they need to do to the home, she being Brittany. And the way Chris talks to her about those suggestions, baby, it could not be me. I would never allow Amanda talk to me that way.
It's an eyesore.
To you.
Yeah.
Well, it ain't your house.
Why ain't it?
Because you ain't living in here every day.
But Tammy is starting to also get worried that potentially the two of them are going to, like, start fighting and arguing over her, and she really doesn't want to come between them. And Brittany has a lot of, like, very valid concerns that maybe this can't all be fixed up in 30 days. So then Chris offers that if they can't get it fixed up in 30 days, then Tammy can just live with them. Which sounds kind of crazy to me, because I think they also mentioned that at least, like, one of their kids and maybe grandkids or a niece or nephew, or there's more than just Chris and Brittany living in this home already. And it sounds like it would be a pretty full house if Tammy also moved in. And yeah, Brittany seems pressed, and I think initially I felt like she was maybe being a little dramatic, but honestly, I get it. Like, that poor woman seems like she is just in this crazy family that she is not blood related to, and she seems a little bit overwhelmed. She seems a little bit in over her head, if you're asking me. But yeah, towards the end of the episode, Tammy starts breaking down because she feels like she's going to be a problem for them.
I feel like I'm causing y'all problems, and I don't want that. I love y'all both, and I don't want to be a problem no more.
And Chris is like, girl, you put yourself in this situation. And I was like, I don't know. I think also Amanda put her in this position. I left this episode still being so upset that all of the siblings, like Amy included, seemed to just be letting Amanda off the hook for the way that she treated Tammy. And that's really frustrating to me. Not that Tammy's some perfect person, but it just seems to me that there are some clear issues with Amanda in this situation that she's taken no accountability for. But anyways, that was the episode. That's it. That's all. So let me know what your favorite parts of the episode were down below. What are your thoughts? Are you Team Tammy? Are you Team Amanda? Or Team neither? I don't know. I guess you don't have to be a team if you don't want to. You don't have to pick sides. I just wish Amanda would take some accountability because I feel like Tammy has, for the most part, of like the part she played. And I don't even really think she played all that much of a part. But anyways, that's all I have time for today. I hope you enjoyed this week's recap of the 1,000 Pound Sisters. I have an entire 1,000 Pound Sisters playlist that is always linked down below in these videos. So make sure to go check those out. If you're brand new to my channel, consider subscribing down below. Hit the bell button so you get a notification every single time I post a new video. Make sure to leave me a comment, hit like, click share, and follow me on all my social media. I had so much fun today. I hope you did too, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!